My warm colors are completely dry, so I'm ready to start drawing details in the background. You can draw any kind of details you want. You just want to keep those details big so they're easy to paint in. So for example, if I wanted to do circles in the background, I wouldn't do small circles like that. Instead, I would do really big circles so that when I go to paint them, it will be easier to fill those circles in with paint. And you'll notice that because it's in the background, I'm having to skip over the shapes that I already drew, and I'm only drawing on the white space. And the same way that I had some of my flowers go off the page, I want to have my background details go off the page too, because that's going to make it look more interesting when we put on those Chromadepth glasses. When I'm done drawing the details with pencil, I'm going to go ahead and trace them with Sharpie, and then I will be ready to paint. When I paint in my background details, I'm going to use the same techniques that I use for the shapes and objects that I painted with warm colors. I need to first wake up that paint by adding water and mixing it really well. If your paint has like kind of a dip in the middle that's getting deeper and deeper, you want to get that paint from the outside and then kind of add it into the middle and then get your paint out of the middle. What I want to do next is think about which shape I want to go first. I'm going to use the point of my brush to kind of start in on some of those little details. And then remember, I am moving my paper so that my hand stays comfortable and I can very carefully paint in those background details. I'm kind of lining up the edge of my brush with the edge of the Sharpie. And then once I start to run out of paint, just fill my brush up again and continue painting. You also are going to want to do the same thing that you did with the warm colors, where you kind of lift your hand up to paint spaces where if you put your hand down, it would be touching the wet paint. So like if I'm gonna paint like this part right here, I would not put my hand flat on the table because I would mess up that beautiful green circle I already did. I would anchor my elbow onto the table and then kind of keep my hand floating, but I still have stability and control because my elbow is anchored in. And then that way I can very carefully paint along the edges, and I can continue turning my paper so that my hand stays comfortable, but I can reach those other spots. You're gonna paint with green first, and then after the green, you're gonna go ahead and switch to blue. Now I wanna make a plan when I'm painting to make sure that I don't have two colors that are the same touching each other. So if I painted this circle blue, but then I also painted the background blue, those two blue spaces are gonna touch and it's not gonna look as cool when you put on the Chromadepth glasses. So I'm gonna make a plan where I paint in all of my big circles green, and then I'm gonna do this negative space around it blue. That way, every shape that touches each other is a different color.